Hey, Bible nerds. So we have a new topic for our Bible study. This time we are going to talk about Miriam, who is Moses' brother. So the story is kind of like if you've seen the animated movie Prince of Egypt, it's kind of that, about Moses. But this time we are going to focus about Miriam, who is the older sister of Moses. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. So, long before the Red Sea parted or the manna fell from heaven, a little girl named Miriam lived in Egypt, a time when the Israelites were enslaved and suffering under Pharaoh's cruel rule. The king had grown afraid of the Hebrews' growing numbers. Um, So he issued a heartless command. Every baby boy born to an Israelite must be thrown into the Nile River. So, but God had already written a different story. So Miriam's mother, uh, Jochebed, gave birth to a baby boy. She saw something special in this baby boy, a glimmer of God's promise. So she hid him for as long as she could, but when it became too risky. She crafted this tiny basket where she can put the baby, and she coated it with tar so it can be protected, and placed her son gently in the riverbank. And that baby was Moses. So, standing a short distance away, heart pounding but brave beyond her years, Miriam. So she followed the basket. She followed her baby brother. So she watched the basket float down the Nile River, her eyes never leaving her brother. Um, so it just so happened that the basket floated into where the Pharaoh's daughter, the princess, was bathing. So she was bathing by the river, and then the basket flowed towards her. So when the Pharaoh's daughter discovered the baby and felt compassion for him, Miriam stepped out from hiding and boldly spoke up, like, "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" Oh, she's so brave. Oh, by the way, a little fun fact. A lot of people don't know this, or maybe just never thought of, but it was the Pharaoh who named Moses. So Moses is actually an Egyptian name. Anyway, so the moment so that moment changed everything. So the princess agreed, and Miriam ran to bring her mother, the very woman who just entrusted her baby to God. So because of Miriam's quick thinking, Moses was raised safely under his own mother's care, and God's plan quietly moved forward. Isn't that beautiful? So years passed. Moses grew up in Pharaoh's palace, left Egypt, and eventually returned to lead his people to freedom. And then, when that miraculous day finally came, when the Red Sea split and Israel walked across on dry ground, you know the story. Well, if you know, you know. So Miriam was there again. This time not as a watchful sister, but as a prophetess of the Lord. So when the waters crashed back and swallowed the Egyptian army, Miriam took a tambourine in her hand. The women followed her, dancing and singing. And I'm just going to read a script from the Bible, Exodus 15, verse 21. "Sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted. The horse and its river, he is hurled into the sea." Or the horse and its rider, he has hurled into the sea. So it was a moment of pure worship, a celebration of deliverance led by the same girl who once watched her brother float in a river. Miriam had witnessed both fear and freedom, and she used her voice to glorify God. But Miriam's story does not end there. Like all of us, her journey had both faith and flaws. And as Israel wandered in the wilderness, there came a time when Miriam and her brother Aaron spoke against Moses. They questioned why God spoke only through him. So pride had quietly slipped into their hearts, but God didn't ignore it. He called them out directly, reminding them that Moses had a unique relationship with him, face to face. When the divine cloud lifted, Miriam's skin was covered in leprosy, a painful, visible reminder of her mistake. Yet, even then, God's mercy showed up again. So Moses immediately cried out, "Lord, please heal her." And God did, of course. After 7 days outside the camp, Miriam was restored, and the people waited for her return before moving forward. So that detail says a lot. The entire nation paused for Miriam despite her failure. She was still respected, still loved, still part of God's story. And then Miriam lived out her days as a woman who had seen God's power firsthand, from a basket in the Nile to walls of the Red Sea. She had been a protector, a worshiper, a leader, and yes, a human who stumbled. But through it all, her life testified to one truth: God can use bold women, imperfect but willing to shape history. And that is the story of Miriam. Now, for part two, we're gonna dive deep, verse by verse, Bible study. So, I'll see you next time. Stay curious.